Listen, yo, this is want to be like one of the most iconic, crazy episodes of all time. I've been waiting to get this person on the show since the very first time I heard her voice. You already heard the intro. You already know what she's the founder of. You already know this amazing cosmetic line she has, Motive Cosmetics. But most importantly, let's welcome a boss to the show, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, Loren is on the podcast today. How are you, fam?
Hi, I'm so glad to be here with you, Shawn. How are you, hon?
I'm doing good. Listen, when I heard, you just speak roughly, I think it was like 5 minutes in a clubhouse room, right? Clubhouse is taking over lives. When I heard
It
you
is
for like 5 minutes, I said, we got to make this happen. So first off, welcome to
what
the
you told
show.
me, and I couldn't wait to do it with you.
Oh
I couldn't.
man. It's gonna be crazy. So look, I want people right now, like they already, they're looking you up. I tell people all the time, they immediately go to the show notes. They immediately start clicking on your Instagram handle. Take us back to like the young Loren growing up. Like what was life for you?
Yeah.
And where are you from?
Well, I was originally born in Queens, so I've had an incredible journey. I met my husband in North Carolina, where we started our company in '92, and really his vision of where computers would be going really made a huge difference. I mean, nobody back in '92 believed that people would shop online. It just was preposterous. The thought of people buying shoes, clothing, cosmetics, books, anything. Everybody wanted to touch and feel things, and we really believed that they would eventually convert their shopping from brick and mortar to click and order. And
Mm.
after a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, taking a lot of arrows, as most people do who pioneer a new territory, we launched. And it was tough in the beginning because, Shawn, nobody wants to give you any products to try. You hardly have any customers.
Yeah.
Nobody has computers. They have to go to the library to use a computer, right? Or it was dial-up, so there was no way to get in. But we really believed that the time would come, and here we are. And now the thought of not shopping online is preposterous, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of funny, we started out in the first couple years, we, like most startups, struggling to make ends meet, but we never, in our third year, when we started to make it, we never spent any money. We reinvested in ourselves over and over again. When people would come to us with deals and opportunities, our goal and our mind was, on the straight and narrow. We had, blinders on, nothing was going to stop us. And so we've always reinvested in ourselves. And over 29 years, of course, doing $1 billion a year in sales and retail sales, it's been phenomenal because when you think about where we've come in the beginning, nobody would sell us any products. Today, we get the pick of the creme de la creme. We have probably 1,000 submissions a month and pick 2 or 3. And, we don't do Me Too products. We really do products that really can make an impact and a difference on people's lives. So we've been super fortunate and of course, worked really hard to get here. And our team's been together for 29 years. So, I don't have any complaints. I'm just starting up a whole nother second round of going in strong.
It's tough. Like, I like that. That was a bar you said from brick and mortar to click and order. And I think the whole world right now, if you told them to go into a brick and mortar store, they're like, yo, why? Right?
Yeah.
Like why would I do that? Right. So I want to
Well,
talk let's talk about this though. The importance of recognizing a possibility before the world tells you it can happen. Right? You talked
yeah.
about in '92, your husband thinking about the computers and, how important for our audience right now, because there's so many people that got all these ideas, they want to bring them to life. How important, Loren, is it for them to recognize that their ideas could be possible?
Well, I think it's first of all important for them to recognize that they're possible, right? So that's really hard for people to do because they've spent their whole lives listening to somebody else. And in many cases, that's their family, right? Their parents or mom and dad, just go to school and, find a good job and, a place you like to work and live in that white picket fence house and have kids and there's your life. And there's not that there's anything wrong with that. I don't want to give people that impression, but I think that people are bigger than they think.
Mm.
And they don't believe in themselves as much as they should. So it's not even necessarily just believing in an idea that they have. It's first believing in themselves because most people don't have that belief. I remember my own father saying to me, oh, you think you're going to be super successful one day? You ought to just go be a flight attendant. You'll be good at that. And there's, flight attendants are great. They get great travel benefits. They get to be home. But that wasn't what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do was be able to make an impact on people's lives. And shop.com has done that. We're the best 4-letter domain name in the world,
By far.
And, I think people need to understand that belief has got to start with themselves. You really do have to put blinders on and kind of eliminate all the naysayers, because life's difficult as it is. Let's think about it, Shawn, right? Nobody wants to, your friends don't want to lose you. They don't want you to become successful and, you never call them again. And, there's that old saying that misery loves company, right? So it's really important that you surround yourself with the right people. If you cut people out of your life, it's because you have to. It's not because you don't love them. You can still love people and eliminate them from your life for a while, or as my husband says, take a mental vacation, right? So, we sometimes have to take mental vacations from people. And sometimes that could be your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters, your best friends, because maybe they don't want you to make it as much as you think. And that's hard to hear. But you know what? I've seen it happen time and time again. And I think when people kind of step out of that comfort zone, that box that they've kind of kept themselves in, and realize that, the only way to get out of it is to take one step out of the box, their whole life can change. So believing in yourself is everything, but you can't do that if you have a bunch of naysayers around you, negative people. One of the things I do, as Shawn, is I keep a very tight circle.
Facts.
All my friends around me. And I know you're the same. You keep those people around you who are pushing you and elevating you, and you're telling you how great you are, and telling you can bounce ideas off of each other, and you can really trust what they offer to you or what they say to you. It's not like, if you remember, and you may or may not relate to this, but I remember being in school, and that girl in school would tell you, hey, don't wear that dress, wear this dress. This dress is so much prettier on you, but you look terrible in that dress. And, you want to make sure that you're around those people who are pushing you and elevating you to be a better human being. And then anything's possible.
Yo, that's a whole bar. That's powerful. I think what's important for people to grasp right now is sometimes you got to separate yourself from the pack, especially when that pack is running in the wrong direction. And so many people are afraid of that. Let's tap into this topic of fear. People are fearful of who they can be, of who they can become. They watch the Lorens, they watch the Shawns, they watch all the people we hang around, and they say, that could never be me. What's your advice for that person listening right now who's at that moment where they need to hear those words of how they can overcome fear?
Well, first of all, I want them to understand that fear is, I always say this, it's a worthless worry. It does nothing. If you are afraid, and go back in your mind and think about a time that you were afraid of something happened in your life that you were afraid of. For me, I always hated flying, but I fly every week, because I'm not going to let my fear of flying stop me from working, right? So I don't love to fly, but I've gotten over it. Now I fly. But when just being fearful of that moment didn't change the outcome of it. It never changes the outcome of it. So fear is a worthless emotion. It doesn't make a bit of sense. And all it does is set you back for no reason at all. And I think most people need to understand that everybody falls down. It's how fast you get up. And if you get up. And I think it's so important for people to understand that it is possible. You are possible. People are possible. And somebody says, well, I need to have an idea that nobody's ever thought of. That's not true. I've seen people have, there's, take something as simple as bread. There's, 1,000 brands of bread.
Yeah.
You don't have to have the most unique thing in the world. You just need to have your story. What's your why? Why are you doing it? Because once you know your why, the how is simple.
Oh, let's talk story. Let's talk it. Because for me, for people that have been listening to the podcast for quite some time, you guys know, I started off entrepreneurship space when I was 14. I started off, Loren, I was throwing parties. I went to, my brother went to college. He started throwing parties with these huge artists. So at 14, I was all in the club. I was standing on couches with some of the people you guys probably might listen to, whether it's Rick Ross, Young Jeezy, you name it.
All of them, of course.
Yeah, and so that was my life. But I learned how to network, how to market, how to connect, how to collaborate, how to attract people, which led me to not only go to college.
How to have a conversation.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so I think people are afraid not only just telling their story, but don't realize the power in their story. For you, right, sharing your story, how has that impacted your life? But most importantly, how has it impacted other people's lives that you started to tell it?
And I think that's so critical, what you just said, Shawn. And most people, I hope it doesn't go over their head, because it's really important what you just said. Listen, your story may be filled with pain. My story was, when we started in 92, we had no idea what we were doing, no money in the bank. My husband and I were flat broke. Eating at Wendy's was a big deal. Had no money. had no, had just had my daughter who was born in April of 92 at the same month that the company, I mean, in September of 92, and the company was born in April of 92. And I was scared to death. But, I didn't have anybody to watch her. My mom passed away just a month later. So the person who I thought was, the greatest woman, greatest inspiration in my life had passed away at the same month I was starting this business. Same time. I literally took my daughter to work every day on one of those little knapsacks, passed her around the office every time we go between meetings, put a playpen in, did whatever we could to make it happen. And here's the thing, most people won't do that. Most people use that as an excuse why they can't start. Most people will use that as an excuse of why they can't start. Well, my mom passed away and my daughter's, just a few weeks old. I don't have anybody to watch her. No, what we did was we packed her up on our back, put the bottles in our bag, took her, food to the office, and everybody got a quick education on helping watch Amber while we all built the business. And that's what we had to do. Most people won't do what you did, Shawn. Most people won't do that because that requires work, and they're afraid of that. Because what if they fail? Well, what if you succeed? What if you succeed? Truth of the matter is that people are so afraid of failure, but they never think about what happens if they do succeed. So they never give themselves that opportunity. And I always say, if you're going to be good at something, be darn good at it. You know what I mean? Just don't show up halfway. Show up and do a great job. And I think, people miss the mark. They don't realize it's actually easy to succeed. If you ever called somebody to come fix something at your house, a plumber, a roofer, anybody, and half the time you have to call 10 people to get somebody to show up. Just be the best roofer you can be. Be the best plumber you can be. Just show up for the job. That's half of the process. Everybody's like, oh, well, they see you speaking on here, Shawn. So they're like, well, that must be amazing. Well, you're up there and you're interviewing all these people and you're a celebrity, Shawn. And that's the coolest thing ever. But they don't understand the process it took you to get there, right?
Tell them. Facts.
They don't understand the process. They don't understand that the process was doing the work before you got here. And that's the hard work. And people, for some reason, they'll work their whole lives for somebody else. They'll have somebody else tell them what to do, making minimum wage or a little bit above it, having somebody take their ideas or their suggestions and act like they're their own, work for this person their whole life. Their life doesn't change. They're working paycheck to paycheck. There's more month at the end of the money, and they don't know what else to do. So what do? They keep working for somebody else rather than stepping out and say, you know what, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm going to finally do something for myself. I'm finally going to take that chance, and I'm going to surround myself with the right people, and I'm finally going to do what I was meant to do.
Yo, that's on a whole nother level. You know what I'm saying? Like, just having the ability to realize, I don't care if you're getting 100,000 a year at some corporate job that you love it. You can get 100,000 or more in a month, fam. You got to really dive in, put in that work, put in those things that give you the access to the tools to really do something with your life. I think I want to talk to you about this because so many people, they see the journey. They see, you stepping out in 92, making and, creating an amazing company and, running successful businesses. If you were to jump back to a moment in your career where things weren't going so well, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that moment? But most importantly, how did you overcome that?
I think, I think, let me say this. We've all had those moments. We've all had those moments like, wow, this is harder than I thought. We don't have any more money. What are we going to do? And, I think people, you do what you can do, but you don't quit. I always tell everybody, when you feel like you're going to quit, you tie a knot at the end of the rope. My husband always tells us, when things get tough, tie a knot at the end of the rope and hold on for dear life. At the very time that you think that something is getting ready to go wrong, you're ready to throw in the towel, success is right around the corner, right? Because most people have to fail in order to get to success. Most people have to fail in order to succeed. So you have to tie a knot and hold on tight. Listen, we had no money. We didn't have money to go. I borrowed macaroni and cheese from my mom. Whatever it took to make it happen, we did whatever it took. You know how many times that when we finally did make money, we didn't spend money? We're still debt free today, 30 years later, because my husband and I don't believe in buying things that we can't afford to buy outright. Because what happens is people come in a little bit of money and they start spending it and they start acting crazy. And then they're wondering why they're broke. And then they max out their credit card bills. Listen, don't believe that old saying, fake it till you make it. That doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
You just It doesn't work. You need to be authentic to yourself. You need to do the stuff that Shawn did or I did. You need to put in that work. You need to say, I can do this. I'm going to cut out anybody from my life that doesn't support me, doesn't push me, doesn't elevate me. If I've cut you out of my life, you gave me the scissors. I'm done. That doesn't mean you don't love them. That doesn't mean you don't care. It just means right now I'm going to take a mental vacation from you till I get where I need to be. And so that moment of moments that were tough for us, we persevered through them. We pushed through them. We all came together and say, wait a minute, we can do this. And, sometimes we'd have to, all of my family's involved in the business, all my brothers and sisters, a lot of my best friends growing up, and I would make deals with them. If you do this with me, I promise you, I'm going to pay you back so big, but you got to keep your word. You got to be a person of your word.
Yep.
So if you make deals with people, you got to follow through on your word. You can't say, oh my God, you don't have to give away all your equity. People throwing away equity like it's crazy. It's stupid. I'm just telling you, all you need to do is make deals with people that you love, know, and trust that are in this with you. You can't do that if you have a bunch of naysayers. If you have a bunch of naysayers, they'll be the first people to tell you why it won't work. You need to get them out of your life first. Once you get them out, you bring around the people that you do trust and you say, you know what, do this with me. Run with me. We're out of money. I can't afford to pay you for 6 weeks. But as soon as the checks come in, you're the first one to get paid. And don't take for yourself. You know how many times we didn't take a check? You know how many times we still starve while other people were eating? But we did that. But today we live a life that most people dream about. Why? Because we went through the pain. We put in the work. We went through the process. You cannot get to success without going through the process. Most people want all the reward, but they don't want to take the risk. Most people they just want the rainbow. They don't want the rain. You know what I mean? Most people want an incredible relationship, but they're not willing to put in the effort or the work with somebody that they love. It takes work. Everything. I've been married for 30 years. Everything I've ever done has taken work. There's no manuals for anything. It's about, when it all comes down to succeeding, let me tell you the biggest key to success. People. People. Solid, good people. You don't need a lot of money. You don't need a solid education. I didn't go to college. I go speak at colleges now. That's as close as I've been. You have to put in the time in yourself and invest in yourself, and don't let anything get in your way. Do not get sidetracked. Don't listen to your best friend when she calls you and tells you, hey, let's go to the movies tonight. I love you. I'm going to go to the movies with you in 3 years when I get where I need to be. That's what I'm going to do. You know what I mean, Shawn?
Yeah, I'm with you. Like you're talking about, so many people want the cheat codes. There ain't no cheat code. And I think when you really break this down and really talk about it, not only just surrounding yourself with the right people. I love the analogy, that your husband said about tying the knot at the very end, because success is right around the corner. Too many people give up. Like too many people give up, right? Like right when they're right at the verge of something iconic.
They're right there. My husband always taught me, right when somebody thinks that they're getting ready to throw in the towel and quit, that's when they got to hold on tight. That's when they got to tie the knot at the end of the rope. Hold on tight, because that's when success is getting ready to happen. I can't tell you how many times we failed, but here's the cool thing. That's part of your story. That's your story. People love the failures, the pain, the blood, the sweat, the tears, and we got a lot of it. But you know what? At the end of it, it's all part of our story and who we are. And I think, and then when you protect that your whole life, I've spent my whole life protecting what we built, meaning don't surround myself with the naysayers. Don't surround myself with negative people. Don't throw away money. Don't just go buying things to buy things. Buy what you want to celebrate yourself when you can, but don't do it at the expense of taking out loans.
You know what?
I don't like that. People taking out loans are paying off student loans their whole life. That's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, people need to stay focused. Do not get yourself into credit card debt and jam. Stay debt free. There's something to cash in the bank. Believe me, it's always nice to be, buying a nice pocketbook or a pair of shoes or the car that you want. But you don't need to keep up with the Joneses. You could be running and laughing all the way to the bank.
Tell them. Listen, you know what's crazy too? I think when you look at what you have created, you look at what you've done with your life, I think immediately that there's a value in understanding how to create systems. And I think people right now are also wondering, okay, how can we tap into Loren's mindset of systems. Like, what are some of those systems that you built to make your company successful, that you want to share with our audience? Because I think a lot of times when entrepreneurs, they have ideas they want to implement, but they structure with how to figure out the right process that can work for them.
I think it's really important to write things down. Like for as far as systems go, when we meet as a team or a group meets or we break out and we meet in individual divisions, it's real important. First of all, identify what the why is. What's the why? Write down what it is. What is it that I need to do to get there? When do I want to get there by? Where is this going to take me? How is this going to accomplish my why? And put down on paper, what are those things that I need to do in order to get where I'm going? And then set a deadline. People don't put a deadline to things. Like I never work on a project without having a timeline. I know what it is. If I'm doing, a challenge, I just finished doing like 3 major challenges from October to now, which is called the 28-day challenge that I did in all of our different divisions. I put a deadline on everything. Why? Because there's no way to get there without a timeline. You need a timeline. You need a roadmap to follow. So, we try to keep things where, it's easy for people to follow, but you can't fail. So if you have the 28-day challenge, or if you know exactly what you need to do in order to get where you want to go, but you do have to identify things by date, because you know what? Otherwise, it's too easy to fall back. You don't have something to go on. You're like, well, it's kind of open-ended. I've never done anything that works that's open-ended. And my team, as far as systems go, I mean, there are certainly, chains of command, but we really try to we do something a little bit differently than most people. We really try to get people together and get people to agree on the mission and on the purpose. And rather than just telling people what we're going to do, we try to involve people in what we're going to do. And some people say, well, that's kind of crazy because you can't always convince people to change their thinking, but you can if you're having a conversation. See, most people won't have a conversation with somebody and say, this is why I want to do this. So our management team, who's been together for, 29 years, the conversation happens is, okay, what do we want to do about this? And why do we want to do it? And often it turns into a laundry night because, nobody ever agrees at first. You end up arguing with each other. But here's the great thing. When you finally get on the same page, Shawn, everybody's ready to go out there and kick some butt,
Yeah. Yeah, I love that timestamp. I think you talking about creating that timestamp, that's gonna be an aha for somebody listening, because a lot of people write stuff down, but they never say, okay, on this day at this time we need to be here. And I think just having that mentality, it speeds up the process.
Yes, you have to write down. This is when I plan. This is what I need to do, when I need to do it by, in order to get the why that I want to achieve. And once you have that down on paper, I usually do it with a pie chart. I ask people to divide out what's the most important part of the process and why, and then what do we need to do in order to get there. And, once you get people to understand the why and see the steps that they have to take in between, it's so much easier to get there. But each one of them have to be identified by a date. So it's like, if you're going to work out at the gym, say, most people say, oh, I want to lose weight. Okay. All right. Well, you got to go to the gym. But you know what happens? They wake up in the morning, they go to put on their tennis shoes, and they start thinking about it. And it's so much easier, Shawn, not to put the tennis shoes on and go.
Ooh.
It's so much easier to just sit back and say, you know what? I'll do it tomorrow. And that's what people end up doing. Well, what about children? What about babies, right? The babies start out and they first are trying to learn how to talk. Then at 12 and 14 months are trying to learn how to walk, and they get up and they fall down and they get up and they fall down and they get up and they fall down. They don't turn to you or your mom, or your dad, and say, hey, this walking thing's not for me. I keep getting up and I fall down. I say, you know what, Mom, stop trying. I'm not going to walk anymore. No, that's not what you did. You got up and you just did it.
Absolutely.
And that's what people have to do. They have to just do it and stop making excuses. Excuses and buts are just, they're death. They're not going to get you where you want to go. They're just examples of why you won't make it. That's all they are. And so, we try to eliminate, my husband did a funny thing many years ago. He did a funeral. We speak in front of large crowds of like 20, 25,000 people. So we actually performed a funeral and buried the word can't and but in a full funeral service. And it was really amazing, but it's kind of like, it was horrifying for some people, because some people want to hold on to that but or can't so much instead of just releasing it and say, you know what, this is no longer part of who I am. I won't be the one. And I always tell people when I hire them, if I'm bringing you on to work with me, the word but and can't doesn't exist. You may have to find a different way. You might have to be creative. We
Yep.
might have to change our thinking, but we'll get there another way. You have to really get people to think in a way that they're not used to thinking. And when somebody, really steps out and just does it and just puts those blinders on and doesn't listen to what any naysayer says and they just do it, that's when we get excited. We love seeing that. Most people pretend, Shawn, that they're walking around as a superhero their whole life when really they don't understand. It's not Superman that's a superhero. It's Clark Kent, the guy who takes off the cape and really does the work.
Mm. Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, you coming hard today on the podcast with it. I know people are walking away with so much. We talked about it, briefly before we went live with the podcast offline. The importance of building relationships, and I think the importance of some relationships you have, some relationships I have. I think truly a large part of my success, if I'm being honest, is really understanding, how I can continue to further relationships, but most importantly, create things with people that I'm introduced to. My question for you is this: as somebody that's obviously networked with so many people, what are some of your keys to somebody right now that's listening, wanting to know how can they build better relationships?
I think first of all is honesty, being honest. People don't want to talk to somebody who's not honest. So somebody who's authentic about their story, somebody who says, you know what, I haven't gotten where I wanted to be, but this is where I'm going. These are my thoughts. These are my ideas. People appreciate that. Second thing is, being not only just authentic to other people, but authentic to yourself. That really comes through. I think, people really want to talk to somebody who cares. We don't care so much about what people know. We care about how they care. So being a caring and a kind person is so important. I always say, when was the last time you got a handwritten letter? Most people just send an email or send a text. But we're all guilty of it. We do that, right? But, do something different. Step out of the ordinary to build relationships and make sure that you're a positive person. Make sure you're not a negative person, because nobody wants to hang out with negative Ned or negative Nancy. Nobody wants that in their life. They want to hang out with somebody who believes they can accomplish anything because you're right here telling them. Imagine you don't have to do anything in your entire life. If you just, are all set and you want to be a great friend, all you have to do is be positive, because you know what? Most of those people don't exist. And, we were talking before the show about Jamie Foxx, who's one of my best friends and has been for years. I mean, when you talk about somebody who's really true and authentic to themselves, this guy is exactly who he is on stage and off stage. Somebody who uses his celebrity for being good, for doing good things. It's hard. People don't want to do that because that's a lot of work. Even Longoria uses her celebrity platform to do philanthropic work. When people do that type of stuff and step out of what their role is and realize that the most important work they do is what they do with real people. And that's why I say the key to any success is people.
Yep.
See, all we have to do is be kind. All we have to do is have genuine conversations. So building relationships is the most important thing you can do. If you put around you the most confident and kind people, everyone wants to be around you. You ever notice that you want to be around the most confident and kind people? Who wants to be around the person nobody cares about the mean girl or the mean guy? That's not what we look for. That's how we used to live in high school. We don't live that way. That's not real life. What we want is to be with people who elevate each other, people who surround themselves, people who have a story, who went through the process, who will support you. So I don't have to pay my friends. My friends come to all my events. Jamie Foxx has been to the last 10 events of mine. I've never paid him $1. If I don't invite him, he calls me. Why haven't you called me, sis? I got my plane booked for tomorrow.
Tell him.
And shows up every time. This guy will show up without any money. And my team, it's funny, my team just walked in and they'll tell you, this guy shows up with no money. No, don't get him an airplane. Don't get him a plane ticket. Try to every time. And I said, well, what are you going to do? And he's like, I'm jumping up on stage. I'm going to speak. Right, Andrew? Andrew's in here too. Andrew's like, amen. He loves him. But, he's like, amen, because, and I'll say, what do you want to do? I'm like, babe, you could just go up there for 5 minutes and say hi. He's like, are you kidding me? Dave Brown and I, we organized the whole show. We're doing a whole show. I mean, this guy will do a full performance, do a full speech, and crack up. Even Longoria, the same thing. My friends come, not because they get paid, because we've built strong relationships and bonds with each other. And here's the thing. You have to reciprocate that. So you have to show back up for them. So when my friends do things for me and they ask me to do something they're on the East Coast, I mean the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast. So if Eva will ask me, hey babe, will you show up for this interview I'm doing? Or Jane will say, hey babe, can you reach out? Or can we do my mom's birthday on the boat in January? I want to surprise her and let's take her out on a cruise. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes. Why? Because you reciprocate, because you're a good person. That's what building relationships is about. And they can see what you've done, Shawn. The question is, will they do what Shawn did? Will they do what I did?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people who admire and look up and aspire to be you. But the question is, will they go through the pain? Will
Yep.
they take the bullets? Will they take the bow and arrows?
Yep.
It's hard to do that. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and guts. And some people just want everything to be really pretty. They just want the rainbows. They don't want the risk.
Absolutely. I think it really comes down to one, if you're listening to this, one of the things you're going to walk away from this conversation is putting in that work where you had that perseverance, where you can take a couple hits, where you can hear a couple no's, where you can really say, you know what, I heard a no, but that just means I haven't gotten my yes yet. I'm going to keep pushing.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly. And I tell people, it's just it's not a matter of, if, it's just when.
whew.
It's just when. It's not if, it's when it's going to happen. You know how many no's I had to go through in order to get somebody to say yes to let me sell one of their products on the internet in 1992 when people didn't even have computers in their house? Thousands of no's. Thousands of no's. But all I needed was the one yes.
Man, that's a good walk away right there.
One yes. I needed one yes for me to have the confidence to know that it'll happen again. And guess what happened? Once you get one yes, you start getting more yeses.
It becomes a domino effect.
It's a domino.
Look, Loren, I want to ask you the question. Like, we ask everybody who's ever been on this show, ever been on this podcast, whether you graduated, whether you dropped out, school just wasn't for you. You're asking yourself the question of the show. School's over, now what? What advice would Loren give?
It's an interesting question. So school's over now. Now what? Let me say this. I wish I paid attention more in school like I should have, because I would have been extra triple threat dangerous. I was more interested in building relationships. That's where I was strong. I was a people person always. I really love people. So it wouldn't have changed the outcome of my life, I don't think. And my husband, he'll tell you that. I think it won't change the outcome of my life. But, there's something about, putting in the time, getting the education. But I also believe that I hope they stay stupid enough and not get so educated that they won't believe in themselves to step out and be an entrepreneur, to step out and do something and not go work the 9 to 5 for somebody else's dreams rather than your own dreams. And so, I think, back then it was, my dad telling me, hey, school's out. What are you going to do now? You need to go. And it's so funny. My dad told me when I finished high school, you're going to apply for Eastern Airlines. They're taking applications down the street. And I was like, Dad, I don't want to be a flight attendant. He said, well, you have to be. You have to do something. I said, Dad, I don't want to fly. In fact, I'm afraid to fly. Well, you're going to fly. So I figured how many people could be in line. I had no idea. I pulled up. There must have been 3,000 people. I was in Greensboro, North Carolina. I was standing in this line. It took for hours. They were only pulling, Shawn, 10 people. What were the chances of me getting that job? Do you know, long story short, I got the job. They wrote me a letter and said, hey, Eastern Airlines has now hired you. You start your training in 4 weeks. You got to go to Atlanta and do this. I was traumatized. I was devastated. All I kept doing was crying in my room thinking, I'm going to have to go live my dad's dream rather than my dream. I don't want to do this. I met my husband just a few short weeks later, and I was getting ready to break it to my dad that I wasn't going to take the Eastern Airlines opportunity. And of course, he was so proud because I got accepted for the darn thing, but I just didn't, it's not what I wanted. And as I was getting ready to tell him, I checked the mail, true story, there was a letter in there from Eastern Airlines saying they had just went out of business.
Wow.
And they weren't going to be hiring people. And if I wanted to, I could move over to Orient Airlines, which I don't even know if I've ever heard of them, and take a position with them that they would keep the same salary and offer me a position with Orient Airlines. I tore that letter up so fast. I made sure that my dad saw the news where Eastern Airlines had went out, and I never, ever had to do that. And I ended up going to work for my own dreams. And it took him a long time to understand that. It took my dad, who passed away at a very early age, my mom too, a long time for him to even come to see how I lived or my house. Not because he's a bad dad. It's all he knew.
Yeah.
You see, sometimes our parents aren't bad people. When I say you have to check out, you have to check out and take that mental vacation from people you love. Sometimes it's your own family. And so my dad, I had to check out from my dad because I didn't want to live his dream. I had no desire to live his dream. So when I finally checked out, didn't mean I didn't love him. I did. Just meant not now, Dad. Not now. Now's not the time for you to be in here. And so the most important thing I do when I got out of school is I protected my mind. My mind is my most valuable asset. I protect my mind. I guard it with my life. Don't let anyone in here. Don't let anyone in here. Because if you do, you'll become a prisoner of your own mind.
Man, I wish I had like a flamethrower emoji or something right now just to drop on the screen. Listen, I think you touched on something. It's very rare when I ask that question and someone really said something I ain't never heard before. You just did it. And I think realizing that your parents' dream, sometimes they can't see the vision. I can relate to that. You know, sometimes they can't see the vision. They can't see the idea. They can't see it. And if you fall victim of listening to it, you become what they already have. You know, you become the victim of whatever lifestyle they're used to. So I like the fact that you mentioned that, and protecting your mind is so key, guys. You got nothing from this podcast with Loren, which I know your notepad is probably filling up. You probably just hit the save button. You probably just tap double like on YouTube. I want you to really grasp the importance of protecting your mind and following your dreams. Loren, you've been spectacular, fam, and I really appreciate you for doing this.
I love you. You're the best, Shawn. And I hope more people will step out like you do and follow their dreams. And they can be you. They can be me. They can achieve anything they want. I think it's more about just belief in themselves, being that person who believes in who they are. And, you know, I love you. And I was so happy to do this with you.
Man, I'm glad you did it, man. The love is reciprocated. Listen, I want people to know more about you. I want people to know, okay, where can they find you? Where can they look you up? Yeah, give them all your social info where they can find you on Instagram. Let people know where they can see, where's Loren hanging out at?
Loren Reitinger. I'm at Clubhouse mostly, and Instagram at Loren Reitinger, Twitter at Loren Reitinger. I'm easy to find. All you have to do is go on the social sites and look for me, and of course at shop.com. But, you know, I'm just grateful to have been here with you, and I hope you guys all got just a little bit out of this, because I realize how valuable your time is today. And trust me, when people want to take your time from you, make sure it's worth it. I hope that I gave you a little bit of value today for your time, because I would never want to take your time without giving you something in return. It's the most valuable commodity we have. So I love you, Shawn. You're the best.
Love you too, fam. And this is real, guys. I want you to do one thing. Always remember, dream it, believe it, but most importantly, go out and get it. Hey, what's up, fam? Thanks for watching. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button. We'll see you next week here at School's Over Now What. And always remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it.